Hi, my name is Camille Fowler, and this is my research video. I chose the island of Puerto Rico. Before we get started, I would like to introduce my lovely audience. My son Cameron, my mother Brenda, turn the camera around, and my brother Noah. So I would first like to start off with why I chose Puerto Rico for this project. As you guys know from previous videos, I did grow up on the east side of Youngstown, where the neighborhoods are predominantly Puerto Rican. So as a child, I always grew up being very intrigued by the culture, the food, the language, the music, everything. And then at some point, I kind of identified myself as Puerto Rican because I kind of went through a identity crisis in a way. So I always would tell people I was Puerto Rican because they never questioned it. So that's just a little tidbit of information as to why I chose Puerto Rico. Now I would like to go on to talk about a little bit of the history. Puerto Rico is the smallest island out of the Greater Antilles Islands that include Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba. Cuba is actually the largest. Puerto Rico is only about 100 miles long, and it's only 1,000 miles away from Miami. The original inhabitants of Puerto Rico were the Taino Indians, who actually migrated to Puerto Rico from South America, excuse me. The Taino Indians really were a peaceful people, and before Christopher Columbus came and invaded Puerto Rico, they had never had any contact with any outside visitors before. So the Taínos actually lived in tribes, and they survived off of the abundance of exotic fruits and seafood that were available on the island. Here's an example of a staple item that was popular back in the Taino Indians' time, and also now. It's called a plantain, and it's kind of like a banana, but it's a little bit more starchy, and you can cut it up and fry it and make tostones, which is fried plantain. So those are pretty good. When Christopher Columbus discovered the island in November 1493 on his second voyage to the West Indies, upon his arrival, the Taino Indians welcomed them. They weren't at all afraid of, the Spaniards. And they kind of made a mistake by showing Christopher Columbus and his people the golden nuggets that were found in abundance in the rivers in Puerto Rico. And they told Christopher Columbus that he could take whatever he needed. Needless to say, he took a little bit more than his fair share. So after the Spaniards discovered Puerto Rico, which they gave that name to Puerto Rico, Christopher Columbus did, and Puerto Rico basically translates into rich port, which is probably a pretty appropriate name considering the abundance of valuable metals such as gold and things like that that are found on the island. A couple years after Christopher Columbus invaded Puerto Rico, an increase in the production of like cattle and sugar cane and tobacco and things like that. And this increase in productivity caused there to be an increase in extra field hands, which now the Spaniards started to import slaves from Africa. And these three cultures do play a very important role in the Puerto Rican culture as a whole. Over time, the Africans, the Taino Indians, and the Spaniards all mixed together to kind of form one perfectly blended culture, which we call the Puerto Rican culture. Puerto Rico still to this day is one of the most popular tourist destinations. It is a commonwealth of the United States, so Puerto Ricans are natural-born Americans. They have the same, laws and things that we do. They use the same currency. The only difference is their main language is Spanish, unlike America, where ours is English. And despite America's efforts to, force our language on them and kind of encourage bilingualism, Puerto Ricans hold on to their Spanish. It's something that's very important in their culture, and they take great pride in it. As far as the Puerto Ricans' beliefs, things like that, 90% of the island they do practice Catholicism, so they're Catholics. But their practices are not they're not like the normal Catholics that we have here. They have different saints and things that they, okay, Cameron. Certain saints and things that they worship that they don't really worship, and other forms of Catholics. So just pause it. Sorry about that. So as I was stating before, my 4-year-old decided to ever so politely interrupt me. Puerto Ricans do practice Catholicism, and as I stated before, their practices and things like that are a little bit different from American Catholics. Puerto Ricans don't really like to give credit to the Africans and Latin American Indians for their influence when it comes to religion, but I guess that's just a part of their beliefs. There's also a different religion practice in Puerto Rico, and it's called Santeria. Santeria is basically, it's a religion based upon worshiping saints, and a lot of people who don't practice it tend to think that it's voodoo or black magic, because of a lot of the rituals and a lot of their rituals and things involve animal sacrifices, which most of the time are chickens. Aside from religion in Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans put a strong emphasis on family. Family is a very important component